Good evening and welcome to Candidates Night. My name is Mary Ann Brignoli and I will be tonight's moderator. Before we begin, I would like to thank the Hanover Women's Club Juniors for hosting this event and give special thanks to Yvonne Bright and Mary Ann Serino for organizing this forum under challenging circumstances. Also, thank you to Colleen Smith from Hanover Cable TV for facilitating this webinar. And thank you to our viewers and to the candidates for their participation.
I'm getting a echo from this.
The format for this evening will be presented in 3 segments. First, candidates will be given 3 minutes for an opening statement. Second, candidates will have 3 minutes to respond to questions. Questions relating to specific boards or departments will be directed to the appropriate candidates. Third, each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes for a closing statement. Now, the candidates. Those running unopposed are David Delaney for the Board of Assessors, Diane Sawin for the Board of Health, Elaine Shea for Library Trustee, Doug Thompson for Moderator, Giuseppe Farinaro for the Planning Board. For the school committee, we have 3 candidates vying for 2 positions, Ruth Lynch, Peter Moralia, and Ryan Hall. For the Board of Selectmen, we have 5 candidates vying for 2 positions, Stephen Lucca, Rhonda Nyman, Vanessa O'Connor, Viola Ryerson, and Mel C Django. We will begin with opening statements. David Delaney, are you on? Okay. Diane Sawin, are you on? Elaine Shea, are you on? Mr. Thompson, I know you're on, so would you like to begin your opening statement?
Hi, I'm Doug Thompson. I'm a lifelong resident of Hanover, and I've been your moderator for 13 years. And while I certainly would appreciate the vote of your endorsement, I'm running unopposed, and I won't take up people's good time with any more commentary than that, other than to say, please come to a town meeting, which is currently scheduled for Monday, the 29th of June, and we all hope to be able to hold it then and be able to all gather, at least in some form, all together. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Giuseppe Farinaro. Giuseppe?
Apologies, I was muted. Thank you very much, Mary Ann. And thank you to the Hanover Women's Club Juniors for making this night happen, albeit an odd way of doing it. Thank you very much. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Giuseppe Farinaro. I've been on the planning board in 2 capacities for the past 2 years. The first as an associate member and then as an appointed member of the board. The town has always been very important to me. I'm actually the 3rd generation in my family to make this community my home. I believe that all boards and committees in town have a direct impact on our community in different ways. And all of us that are on this lovely family style Brady Bunch squares are here because we care. And we're here because, you know, we believe that Hanover is of utmost importance. And I have a tremendous amount of respect and gratitude for all those who volunteer and take part to make the town better. So thank you to everyone also that's on the line today. It truly does take a village, and the planning board affords me the opportunity to impact the current and future developments to ensure that it's beneficial and fitting to the community that we all call home. So I would appreciate your vote whenever that may be.
Thank you, Giuseppe. For the school committee, Ruth Lynch.
Good evening. I'm running for re-election to the school committee, and this evening I'd like to express my thanks to Yvonne Bright, Mary Ann Serino, and the Hanover Women's Club Junior for organizing this event. I would welcome the opportunity to continue to serve as a member of the Hanover School Committee. I've been on the committee for 7 years, and I've also served as vice chairperson for 3 years. My husband and I have lived in Hanover for over 45 years, and all 3 of our children graduated from Hanover High. One of the reasons that I've chosen to run for office again is to continue to ensure that the Hanover school system prepares all of its students for the 21st century. And 2 major and critical initiatives have been developed during the past several years: the Envisions K through 5 and the Connected Math grades 6 through 8, as well as the development of a comprehensive literacy program. These major initiatives will continue to benefit and impact all students. I totally supported the realignment of the elementary schools and the renovation of the Center School. I encouraged the creation of a new field trip proposal. Thus, when teachers come before the committee for approval, all the necessary and vital information is contained in the document. I worked on creating a new fundraising policy with Chairperson Liam Miller. This has enabled fundraising for the schools to become totally transparent. I have carefully reviewed and edited and offered suggestions to the student handbooks and the high school program of studies. I currently serve on the Fire Station Planning Committee as well. One of the most important responsibilities of the committee is to approve the school department budget. It is the responsibility of the committee to provide not only for the students' academic needs, but we must also meet the components of a total education. The fine arts program, the music program, and educational athletics are all a critical part of the student's education. I will be committed to ensure that the Hanover schools provide the very best for the children of our town. With my background as an educator, I believe that my perspective and experience has been helpful to the committee. I was a teacher for 11 years, and then I became a high school principal. My final position was the principal of our neighboring community, Pembroke. It was a special opportunity to become part of that new school system.
Time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Peter Morales. Peter?
Okay. Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Pete Moralia, and I'm running for school committee. I'm grateful to the Hanover Women's Club for the invitation to participate for tonight's event and everyone who's listening in during these difficult times. My wife, Mary Jane, and I and our 3 daughters have had the pleasure of living in this community for 5 years now. And we can relate to many people who are listening at home now. We are what you call COVID home learning warriors, masters of Pearson, if you will. In all seriousness, you know, it's been a joy having, despite the tragedy, having, you know, kindergarten to my left and 3rd grade to my right in my home office every day. And I applaud the school system for bootstrapping, really, a crashed online program and getting it working in a matter of weeks with very little training. So it tells me that they were ready for it, and I'm very impressed by it. I'm running for 2 reasons. One is we need to keep our schools on a positive trajectory. And, you know, it's very important to me. I think everybody agrees, and I talk to, thinks the school is on a positive trajectory, but we need to do more. Second, what I think I can bring is greater diversity and collaboration to the committee. Okay, it is a committee, it's a team. And that has many dimensions to it. I'll just list a couple personal ones for those of you who don't know me. I've had the pleasure of being a STEM educator, science, technology, engineering, and math for a large portion of my career. I have a master's and a PhD in engineering. I've taught science at the high school level. I'm currently an adjunct professor at UMass Lowell, where I teach in the digital classroom, in class and online, and I advise undergraduate and graduate students alike. So what I think I bring to the committee is an emphasis on STEM education, and at the same time being an advocate for strengthening our programs in math and science. On the other side, my full-time job is at Draper in Cambridge, Mass. I'm an engineering practitioner. Everything I do is collaborative and in partnership. I lead business development efforts, projects, and personal management, budgets, etc. Most recently, I led multiple diverse teams of engineers and scientists to solve complex and propose complex societal environmental problems to try to solve them with technology. We work with people who aren't engineers at all, city planners, ecologists, over a wide range of massive problems, from pedestrian safety to restoring coral reef in the Florida Keys. So what I think I bring to the table and to the committee is a capacity to collaborate, innovate, and solve problems for our community. So what about this keeping on a positive trajectory? I pulled papers and got to work early on this, not just to get on the ballot, but because I'm really serious about this and I want to be prepared. I've spoken with school committee members, school officials, leadership, and equally important, residents like yourself, to hear about what youth see are the major issues. And that's, in my opinion, a large part of the job. I heard and agree with a lot of you that the schools need to be on a more positive trajectory. And my closing statements, I'll list a few of those. In closing, my pledge to you is to make this approach, to keep us on a positive trajectory, to be collaborative with the school committee, and to make our children's educational experience exceptional. I offer my skills and passion and track record in education, leadership, and innovation to help the committee work through our current and future challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Ryan Hall. Ryan?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ryan Hall, and I'm running this year as a write-in candidate for the 3-year position of school committee member. I want to begin by thanking the Hanover Women's Club Juniors for including me in this wonderful event, and I also want to thank the school committee, the community members that are in attendance, and my fellow candidates. To begin, I'd like to share a little bit about my experience. I have worked in better education in a variety of settings for the past 16 years. My experience includes teaching in inclusive classrooms, writing grants and implementing the support of technology in the classroom, planning with local and regional committees, and developing a rigorous standards-based curriculum. I began my career in the special education department in a Wellesley Elementary School, which led to my position as a mathematics supervisor in an alternative high school in Roxbury. When we moved to Hanover 10 years ago, I had recently joined the Plymouth South High School math department, leading efforts to bring technology into the classrooms. I now teach math to both middle and high school students in Duxbury, a one-to-one district, and promote technology to support a co-teaching and inclusion model there as well. I am also the proud mother of 3 children entering grades 5, 4, and kindergarten in the fall. We as a family have worked through both the IEP and 504 process to support the learning needs that are required to help our children be successful. My experience here in Hanover and with the Hanover schools, working with teachers and staff on behalf of my kids, has made me much more aware of how the collaboration between parents and schools feel from the other side of the table. The decision to run for school committee is not one that I take lightly, and my husband and I were weighing the impact for our family this year. Then the onset of COVID-19 caused my focus to shift from political consideration to the immediate needs of my family, my children, my parents, and my students as the deadline to pull papers passed. Although I was initially considering this a completely lost opportunity, conversations with other parents and friends in town, as well as my own experience with remote learning from my home, both as a parent with 3 children and a teacher teaching around the clock in my kitchen, found me more driven than ever to pursue this commitment. I am excited to bring my experience and passion to serve the Hanover community. Thank you.
Thank you. For selectmen, is Stephen Lucca on? All right, then we'll go on to Rhonda Nyman.
Yes, I'm on, Ms. Spagnoli.
Oh, hello, Mr. Lucca. Thank you.
All right. I thank you very much to the Hanover Women's Club for hosting this event. My name is Steve Lucca. I'm running for Board of Selectmen. I've lived in town now for 9 years on King Hill Road with my wife and 2 daughters. I work in construction and real estate. My wife, Laura, works at a local high school. My two daughters, Emma and Nora, attend center school. Emma's a competitive Irish step dancer who loves theater, and Nora's a gymnast who loves to play sports. It's fun raising kids in Hanover. We're involved in the catechism at St. Mary's, HYA soccer, and we're supposed to get into softball this spring. We made a lot of great friends here in Hanover, and Hanover's home to us. Life's changed a lot with COVID-19. Now we juggle homeschooling and work, but we've found time now, to enjoy the small things, like meals, more meals together, and more family dinners. I volunteer in town. I coach soccer with the kids. I serve on the Hanover Conservation Commission. I've always paid attention to what's going on in town. I've attended public meetings over the years, and I voiced my concerns or asked questions when I had them. I love local democracy in action. I always have. When I was in high school, before I could vote at town meeting, I was one of the kids that would bring the microphone around to people in the audience if they couldn't get up. I'm here now asking for your vote for selectmen so I can represent your concerns about the important things in our town, like the water quality, cleanup of the national fireworks property, the need for senior housing and economic development, and then strengthening the operation of our schools. I really look forward to having conversations with you about these important issues. Unfortunately, right now, with social distancing, we're not able to do it. We are still having meetings with conservation. Getting involved with Conservation Commission was a good fit for me. I'm used to reading a set of plans, and I love the outdoors. Being part of the active effort to protect our wetlands and river system is the front line to protect our drinking water. We have to take every effort to deliver clean, clear water in Hanover. Brown water with chemical-related violations, it's not okay. I plan to continue my efforts to protect our water and make sure we have enough good quality water to deliver. We rely on our groundwater. We need it to be pure. The planning board got a lot of notoriety for their efforts in the mall development, but conservation was very active in that too. And we kicked the plans back to developers many times to make sure that the water quality that was going into the third herring brook behind that property was filtered properly, clean, and created a healthy river system there in the third herring brook, which is now designated an outstanding cold water fishery. And herring are coming up through the North River from the ocean and spawning in Jacob's Pond. And that's not just good for the fish, it's good for us, because that river flows right downstream to the Pond Street Water Treatment Plant, where we get a lot of our water. So clean water for the fish is better for us.
You have a few more seconds. Go ahead.
Few more seconds. So, I'm looking to take that holistic approach to the Board of Selectmen, trying to find the root cause of our problems and solve it there, and not have to put patches and small fixes on things that are just going to come back to haunt us later on.
Thank you. Rhonda Nyman.
Good evening, everyone. I'd first like to begin by saying thank you to Marianne Brugnoli for moderating tonight's virtual candidates night. I am Rhonda Nyman, and for over 40 years, I have called Hanover home. I'm running for selectman to use my experience as a businesswoman and public servant to make our town an even better place to live and raise a family. I can think of no greater way to give back to the people of Hanover than serving on the Board of Selectmen. I graduated from Hanover High School in 1978 and chose to settle in Hanover and raise my two daughters here, both of whom attended Hanover Public Schools. Throughout my time in town, I have been part of the community in many ways and have seen firsthand the difference those involved in public service can make in people's lives. From teaching CCD at St. Mary's, to serving on the Hanover Veterans Memorial Committee, and being a member of the Hanover Women's Club Juniors, this passion for public service is what continues to drive my involvement and led to my decision to run. In addition to raising my daughters and being involved in the community, I worked as the Chief Financial Officer of Triangle Engineering in Hanover's Industrial Park, a welding manufacturing company that is now in its third generation of family ownership. For over 20 years, I was responsible for balancing the budget, identifying cost savings, and making payroll. This gave me firsthand knowledge of how small businesses are the backbone of our economy. As selectman, I will support our small businesses and help them navigate government. At the same time, I chose to raise my family here because of Hanover's small town residential culture. I will make sure we preserve that culture for the next generation. In my current role as the Government Affairs Officer at the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department, I advocate and represent the office on Beacon Hill. I work within our communities doing outreach and interact regularly with public safety officials. As selectman, I will use my knowledge of government advocacy, and relationship building to deliver for our public safety personnel so they have the resources they need to keep our town safe. As selectman, I will be dedicated to providing a voice for everyone in our community. I promise to remain accessible and transparent and will continue to encourage civic participation. I will be committed to a balanced town budget and will work with all departments to ensure our services are funded properly. I will be a strong advocate to get our fair share of local aid, funding for education and funding for our roads. I will support our excellent school and teachers, continue my work to eradicate bullying and work on community approach to the ongoing opioid epidemic that affects so many of us in devastating ways. As the daughter of a World War II veteran, I will continue to support our veterans and make sure they get the assistance and recognition they deserve. I will also fight for our seniors and ensure they have the resources needed to live comfortably, as I did when I served as state representative and brought GATRA to Hanover. In these uncertain times, as we begin to recover from the coronavirus pandemic, we need someone who can hit the ground running from day one. I have the leadership skills and knowledge of our town that is necessary to accomplish this. I'm running for selectman because I have a deep gratitude for Hanover, the place I have been lucky to call home for over 40 years, and can think of no better way to give back to my community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Vanessa O'Connor?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vanessa O'Connor, and I'm a candidate for the Board of Selectmen. I'd like to take a quick moment to thank our town departments, especially our first responders and teachers, for their tireless efforts to keep our town safe, healthy, and running remotely as we continue to be impacted by COVID-19. I also want to thank the Hanover Women's Club Juniors, the residents watching tonight, and the other candidates sharing this webcast with me, as well as Mary Ann for moderating this evening. Volunteers are often overlooked and always underpaid, but this town truly does appreciate the work that you do. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself, my qualifications for a seat on the board, and the biggest issues that we're facing as a town. My husband, Devin, and I have two fiery little girls, Eden, who's 3, and Cora, who's 1, and I grew up a few minutes away in Braintree. My husband and I lived in Dorchester for a number of years, St. Anne's Parish for anyone who still goes by parishes over there, before choosing to move our growing family to Hanover in 2018. I attended Braintree High School, obtaining my bachelor's degree from Tufts University, and then I attended BC Law. After litigating for a couple of years, I started practicing commercial real estate law at Goodwin Procter LLP. My family made the choice to move to this community because we fell in love with the small town feel, our welcoming neighbors, and the excellent school system. This is the home we've chosen to raise our girls in, and I hope to get to know as many of you as possible in the coming years. I bring a variety of experience to the table. I grew up lower middle class and worked my way through high school and college as a member of a local union. Those years taught me to work hard, efficiently, and always prioritize compassion in my community. I've carried those values with me while learning to be concise, efficient, and pragmatic as I negotiate contracts with an eye towards short and long-term impacts in my professional practice. I draft logical, clear, and concise guidelines and break down complex issues to convey them in an audience-appropriate way that my clients can easily understand. I also keep projects and subordinates running on time and on budget because I can't afford to waste my time or my clients' time. In short, I get things done and then I move on to tackle the next challenge. I've been active in town government since moving to Hanover. Besides being the woman with the baby at last year's town meeting, I'm the AdCom appointee to the Fire Station Study Planning Committee and a member of the Hanover Club. Professionally, I supervise 20 attorneys as part of a volunteer attorney for the day program at the Boston Housing Court, where we help tenants negotiate issues with their landlords. I've also served as director on community and professional boards, including several terms as a director of the Massachusetts Black Lawyers Association. If that doesn't convince you of my qualifications, I've also been working from home full-time the last 2 months while caring for a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old and running a campaign. I was the first candidate by a couple of months to throw my hat into the ring for the Board of Selectmen. I believe that residents have a civic duty to work for and give back to their communities. And I realize that many of the residents in town are not able to take this challenge on because of work and other commitments. I wanted and still want to be a voice for Hanover, a voice that listens and communicates. I think the biggest issue facing the town right now is the budget, and I hope that you will consider electing me in June.
Thank you. Viola Ryerson.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Thank you, all of you who are here tonight. participating, and thank you our first responders and teachers and all of the people in grocery stores who are unprotected and serving us and they most often don't get too much credit. I served you as selectman 3 times when you voted for me from 1997 till 2006. I'd like to be able to come back to the Board of Selectmen, bringing the history that I have and the knowledge that I have to the board to help the board. I think it's very important that people understand what a Board of Selectmen actually does. We are not water commissioners, so even though the water situation may be a situation that is very important to all of us, the way the Board of Selectmen relates to that is through policy and growth policy and watching the growth in town, making sure that the growth reflects the resources that we have to support it, i.e. within the water department, within the school department, making sure the taxes reflect the ability of residents to pay those particular obligations, and that our departments, and I think we have great departments and we have great boards, are supportive of the different needs that residents have who are paying the taxes to support those departments. My beginnings were in Dorchester, like most of the world. As a little girl, I spent a lot of time in Roxbury growing up and belonged to several organizations there, where my mother had been brought up as an Italian immigrant, Italian Moroccan. My father was from Vermont. He is very involved in social services in Boston while I was growing up. And I tried to follow him with that zeal for public service because I believe in a democracy. It's very important that we get involved and that we are responsible to each other. Hanover is a wonderful place. Serving on the advisory committee as vice chair for 5 years before I became a select woman, I learned an awful lot about the finances, about Chapter 90, Chapter 70 funding, and I took that experience and knowledge with me onto the Board of Selectmen, where as a 3-board member, we went from a B bond rating to a AAA bond rating because of our ability to prepare town warrants and to make appointments to boards that were relevant to the work at hand. Selectmen sign warrants for payments. They grant licenses. They prepare town warrant. They do not, the town manager now does the contracting with different departments. And to that end, I'd like to thank the fire department, the police department, who have been very patient with all of us, and the parents who have kept their kids at home. This is a unique time.
It's time.
Thank you so much, and I hope you'll vote for me to bring back my experience, knowledge, and ability. Thank you.
Thank you. Mel C Django, is he on? Django?
You're muted.
Hi,
Hello, Mel C.
I'm Marianne. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mel C Django, and I'm running for a Board of Selectmen. My experience spanning 20 years as a small business owner in Massachusetts, I believe it will be very useful as a member of the Board of Selectmen. After migrating from my native Albania, I quickly assimilated to the culture here. This involved getting to know Massachusetts, learning how to speak English. I now speak 3 languages fluently. Along with my brothers, we opened Brothers Roast Beef in the North Shore. We started a small sub shop, which developed a loyal customer base. After 14 years living in the North Shore, my family and I decided to move to the South Shore and found Hanover to be the perfect place for us to settle. Based upon the reputation of the town as a great place to raise children and a strong school system, my family and extended family bought land in town and built our houses. Once settled in town, my brothers and I decided to further invest in the community by purchasing land on Route 33 and 53 and opening Three Brothers Grill. As we had hoped, Brothers has become a place for residents to gather and socialize while feeling welcome and appreciated, and also has made it possible for us to meet so many great people, many of whom has become our friends. As a restaurant owner, I'm responsible for the many tasks associated with the running a successful business. I believe My experience developing the budget for the business, managing the financial affairs of the business, handling hiring, human resources issue, and most important, customer service, interacting with the public on a daily basis, qualify me for the important role as a selectman. I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to thank the Hanover's Home Women Juniors Club, all the candidates, and this is it.
Thank you.
Thank
Will.
you.
Thank you. Fine, now we will go on to the question and answer segment. I will read each question as it was written by its author. And the first question is for the selectmen candidates. And I believe, Mr. Lucca, we'll start with you. And the question is this is for all of the selectmen candidates. What is your message to taxpayers relating to tax increases for the next 3 years during your first term in office? Mr. Lucca. Mr. Lucca?
Yes, I'm here. Unfortunately, we've become accustomed to tax increases here. Our taxes have gone up consistently ever since we moved here almost 10 years ago. And I think that a serious effort needs to be made, to try to tighten belts. I know that the Board of Selectmen has put together a proposal for a home rule petition to relieve taxpayers of paying their community preservation funds, the surcharge, for the next 2 years, and that's going to be presented to the voters at town meeting to see if they decide to do that, and send that to the legislature to give people some relief. But community preservation funds, it's a savings account, for big projects, and it's not the budget. I know that there are contractual things in the budget that do escalate, but I think we have to look at everything and see what we can do. We obviously don't want to cut back on services. Town hall's already running a skeleton crew, but we do have to find savings for people. And if we can leverage some of the funds that we have available to us, maybe through the Affordable Housing Trust to help people who are in need, I think we should try to do that.
Thank you.
Don't want everybody's taxes to keep going up, and I think I know if I'm on the board, we're going to take every effort to keep that from happening.
Thank you very much. Rhonda Nyman, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, if you could, Marianne, thank you.
Absolutely. What is your message to taxpayers relating to tax increases for the next 3 years during your first term in office?
Well, Marianne, the last thing right now to the taxpayers, the last thing we want to do is raise taxes during a recession. I think, who knows what we're going to be faced with in the next couple of years or in this year as well. So the last thing we want to do is we have any increases in taxes. I support the CPA, the funds for that, the reduction that's going to take place, the delay in the taxes. It's a temporary tax on the CPA that's going to be on the warrant coming up in June. I think that's going to be helpful to people that might be struggling during these difficult times. It's going to average out to be maybe about a couple $100 on the medium household income savings, and that's just a temporary reduction in that. So I think that would be helpful. But the message that I would like to relay is that I hope that we will not have to increase any type of taxes in the next couple of years.
Thank you. Vanessa O'Connell.
Thank you, Marianne.
Would you like me to repeat it?
No, that's fine. Thank you. So COVID-19 has really upended our country, and I think that the biggest and most immediate challenge that we're going to face as a Board of Selectmen in the coming years is going to be working with town departments to prepare fiscal year 2022 and 2023 budgets that tackle and mitigate the effects of the COVID-19 crisis. Specifically, I think there's going to be a substantial drop in state and federal funding that we're receiving, and I think that we need to go above and beyond and do all that we can to avoid a significant tax increase to our residents, because people are going to be feeling this. I mean, people are going to lose their jobs. People are going to have to close their businesses. There will be businesses in Hanover and surrounding towns that don't open back up because of this COVID-19 economic fallout. And I think that as a town, Hanover, we have a higher percentage of our general fund, the funds that go towards that come from property taxes than surrounding towns like Pembroke and Rockland. Thankfully, what that does mean for the town is that we do rely slightly less on federal and state funds. That said, because so much of our budget and what we're able to spend comes from tax revenues, we really need to think hard about how we match those two goals of, one, not increasing taxes, and two, making sure that we're still able to provide the funds that to provide the services that the people of this town have grown accustomed to pay our ongoing debts and to fund the schools. And I think there's going to be some really tough decisions that have to be made and tough conversations that have to happen to allow that. I'd be a great person to participate in that. As many of you may have seen, I'm one of the more recent candidates to town. That means I don't have alliances. I don't serve any masters. I'm not jaded, and I don't think that I'm willing to rule out things just because someone's voted them down in the past or they haven't worked. I'm really looking to make and find creative, innovative, and new solutions that will allow us to weather this storm that is coming, whether people are prepared for it or not, it's coming, and while still protecting Hanover residents and doing the best that we can to reduce any impact that there are to the residents' taxes, because taxes are high and the rates do keep going up every year, and we need to do something about it. That said, it's especially pronounced. The response to this is especially going to be focused on, and it's going to be highlighted because of the economic fallout that we're experiencing. If this COVID-19 crisis does turn into a recession, there's going to be some hard decisions that have to be made, and I think I am one of the best people to be making those decisions. And I think if you elect me to your board, you'll see that, and you'll see that I am willing to do what we need to keep our town stable to shore this storm.
Thank you. Viola Ryerson.
Thank you, Mary Ann. If I had a message for my fellow neighbors, residents in town, the message would be one of hope. I feel that we are doing the very best we can. Our fire and police chiefs are incredibly busy, and our nurses and everyone else involved with this COVID-19 crisis have done remarkable jobs. That said, there is an impact on the economy for sure. We have met that challenge. We have prepared for and taken part in all of the precautionary things that we can do. Moving forward, it's important as a Board of Selectmen that we support boards and the economics of our boards, and we support our town manager as he negotiates with employees to keep their salaries within a scope of what's happening outside of town hall. I certainly hope that we do not go into a major recession. That being said, we have because of a great planning board, we have Previties, we have Market Basket, we have other businesses coming into town who will help bolster our tax receipts. And this may in part make up for some of our shortfallings, as they may or may not be. To be realistic, the most important people in this town, as we look at Chapter 90 and Chapter 70 funding from the state, and we should look closely at that, the most important people are the voters. You vote at town meeting on articles that influence our spending. And I would suggest strongly to you that you take a good look at town meeting articles each year and vote your will and what you can afford. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Viola. Mel C Django. Would you like to repeat the question?
No, it's fine. Thank you. Hi, one of the major issues our town is facing is real estate taxes. The challenge keeping the real estate taxes manageable for newcomers and long-term residents manageable alike, while at the same time maintaining critical town services like education, public safety, public works. I believe that one way to address this is to make the town an attractive place for businesses, and as a result, increase business tax revenue. I'll do my best to hold the line on taxes while continuing our current levels of services. I will work with the department heads and town manager on how to accomplish that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The second question is for the school committee. And we'll start with Ruth Lynch. What changes have been made or should be made to improve test scores, including SAT scores?
This question was asked of our committee last year, just about this time. People were wondering why our test scores were just average, because we are not an average community. We are a hardworking community. Large percentage of our students go on to four-year colleges. 100% of our students pass the MCAS test, which is now a requirement for graduation. But upon looking at our SAT scores, we had to figure out what was it that we were just average. So the first thing that we recognized was definitely our math scores, particularly in the elementary schools needed and middle school, needed some raising, as well as to be ensured that our literacy program continued to be strong. So that's why those two initiatives that I made reference to in my opening statement were implemented. And already we have seen a difference in our scores, particularly in our rankings in the state of Massachusetts. And also we see our scores being recognized by the College Board for our AP scores. We have an incredible number of students involved taking AP, and our scores are high. That means students get at least a 3 or above. And these factors, AP, MCAS, SATs, we don't teach to the test, but we recognize that these tests are a way of measuring academic achievement and ensuring our students are prepared for college, work, or the military after school.
Thank you. Mr. Moralia?
Hi, I couldn't agree more with what Ruth said. In fact, if you watch the school committee meeting today, that was discussed, a new innovative approach to getting students the opportunity to practice. I mean, I can speak to this personally. I mean, I tested horribly at SAT scores. I almost didn't get into college because of it. And all it came down to is practice. So I think there's this spectrum of, there's the notion that you have to teach the test, but there's a spectrum here. You've got to do the minimum. You've got to, testing is a part of life. And we've got to give the students the tools and the practice they need to do well on these tests. At the other end is academic excellence, which is just a well-rounded student who, when they go to a good college, they're going to do very well. We got to do both. And I think it's really important to keep both of those in mind when you talk about educating kids. So I think there's a lot of good strides being made there. And what I'd like to see on the committee and participating on the committee is how far can you go with that? Because it will impact our school ranking, which is an issue. And it's a part of life. And yes, we have to do better on these tests. And I think I would like to see new innovative approaches to do this so that students aren't just groveling away and practicing tests, they're having fun with it. And I think I saw some evidence of that today. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Hall.
Could you repeat the question for me?
Absolutely.
Thank
What
you.
changes have been made or should be made to improve test scores, including SAT scores?
Excellent. So I agree with some things that Ruth was saying, that there have been improvements that have been made. We're working with Read 2700 to work on the reading in the district and the math programs that have been implemented, both at the elementary, the middle school, the high school. I know that we're working very hard on those. I think that test scores, although they're data points to help us gather information about our district and are important in what we use to move forward. We don't want to put all of our stock in those because there are good things happening and we need to give them time to work. I also agree that we saw some great things with SAT prep that they're working on at the high school that are making great strides for a lot of students, and in a really great way for kids and teachers alike. To improve those scores, I think one of the things that we can do from the grade kind of elementary grade level and up is really start to look at grade level norming, getting all of our grade levels normed in terms of what our expectations are and what the standards are, and making sure that we're expecting the same thing across the board at every grade level in every classroom. I think the more that we do that, we're going to see a consistent implementation of these new programs, and then that growth continue throughout the rest of the school system.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next question is for the planning board. Giuseppe, why hasn't the planning board started to review old bylaws and develop new bylaws so we don't have loopholes for developers?
Thank you, Marianne. I would say that the planning board, obviously bylaws are the guardrails in which we utilize to guide us in any decisions and any projects that come before us. In fact, the planning board does and is always reviewing bylaws as projects come before us. In fact, we have an article on the article in this coming election, not election, town meeting, for a moratorium on the VPUD bylaw, which came into play from, the large project that we were doing, which is Hanover Crossing. We felt as a board that it would be a good time for us to take a step back, take a look at that bylaw, and in fact, make sure that there are no loopholes for developers, and to make sure that we are, continuing to do right by our residents when these projects come forward.
Thank you. Our next question is for the selectmen and the planning board. So Giuseppe, if you'd like to just stay there.
Sure.
Selectmen and planning board. How do you think the town is going to keep up with growth without having a town planner? Giuseppe?
Do you want me to go first? Sure.
Please.
Yeah, so it wasn't exciting news to hear that, we were not going to be filling the role of the town planner. Unfortunately, we had, as a town, our town manager, Joe, has done a phenomenal job with the budget. Along with the current board of selectmen, they did a phenomenal job with a reactive approach to the COVID crisis that we're going through. And the fact remains that the planning board is a strong board. We have 6 dedicated and longtime members. We have an outstanding chairwoman who is extremely dedicated. We have Ann Lee that we rely on heavily, who's our assistant town manager and our HR director that can help us internally. We also have a healthy reliance on our department heads, police and fire, our boards, conservation, ZBA, Board of Health, and our engineers that we outsource to help us with plans and different work. As I said in my opening statement, it really does take a village. I believe this will likely be a temporary situation. At least I hope it will be. And we'll pull through, and we'll get through it to ensure that businesses want to continue to do business with us as a town, and that will benefit our residents.
Thank you. Rhonda, would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I think I have it, Marianne. You can correct me if I'm wrong, though. But
Okay.
I just think at this point in time, we're going to be headed for some major budget crunches, and because of the coronavirus. So unfortunately, I think we shouldn't hire any new town employees right now. And I'm confident in our town manager and our planning board members and the rest of the staff at the town hall that they can manage the expansion effectively at this point.
Thank you. Vanessa?
Now you're muted.
Vanessa O'Connor?
Sorry about that. I made the faux pas being on mute, as I'm sure everyone will tonight. So I think that the answer there is that we have to rely heavily on the planning board. We have to rely heavily on the master plan that the town put in place. I think was updated a couple of years ago. And we have to really, truly encourage residents to participate in our town government. I think with regard to relying on the master plan and relying on the planning board, one, I think the planning board is doing a wonderful job. I think they're very hardworking individuals. I think they have a wealth of knowledge about our town, about the history, and about the direction that we're going, which I was able to observe personally as I've kind of read through the master plan and seeing what the vision is for our town. And so I think that we really do have to rely on them. I also think that it's important to note that the town's population was expected to grow about 2%, and as it should show in the 2020 census. And beyond that, I think limited growth is expected based on the master plan. So I hope that along with the hard work and dedication of the planning board and the other departments in town, and the great work that our town manager is doing in conjunction with the Board of Selectmen, will be able to kind of be an all hands on deck approach to managing the situation. Additionally, I think that one thing that we really need to focus on is participation in our town government. I've been to town meetings since I moved to town. Yeah, there are a number of residents that show up, but I've noticed the same faces over and over again. And I think it's important that as many people as possible participate, and not just at town meeting. I think they need to participate earlier on in the process. I think that to the extent that they're able, they need to attend meetings, and we as members of the town government need to encourage that and make things as easy as possible for them to participate in and communicate information transparently and openly.
Thank you. Viola?
Thank you, Mary Ann. I'm disappointed that we won't be able to afford a town planner. I do have full faith in our planning board. Early on this year, I suggested a moratorium on building temporarily until we knew exactly what our water supply should be. And that was through an article to Hanover Mariner papers. I still feel strongly that before we allow we have a policy of inviting too much building, and that really is something for the planning board to review, that we seriously look at our water supply and our other resources, especially in the face of not having a town planner. Again, reiterating what I said earlier about participation, you as voters who are watching tonight are the people who will decide what we can afford, what we do, how we build, how that building implements other service needs. And that is part and parcel of what a town planner looks at. But we as residents and taxpayers, thank God, have that opportunity. And I have full faith in my neighbors. Please participate. Let your heart pound a little at meetings. It did for me, and now I never shut up. And just come to town meeting and voice your opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Viola. And Mel C, Mr. Django.
Hi. I believe that now it's not the time to hire, dealing with the coronavirus, now it's not the right time to hire a new town planner. I think the planning board is doing a great job. Being in the business that I am, I've dealt with many planning boards, and I'd like to congratulate you guys for all that you do. Also, I believe that the community development department has the experience and the expertise to perform with one less employee during this difficult financial times, I would say. And knowing Ann Lee as the department head is excellent. She is excellent at what she does, and I trust her to do a good job with filling up until we have a town planner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is for the Board of Selectmen. While trying to keep property taxes, as I said, I'm reading this as it's written. While trying to keep property tax growth as low as possible, does it make sense at this time to consider moving school administration from Salmon to Sylvester? Is there any issue with the Salmon building? And will this put the town in the position to choose between this and other projects like a new fire station? And what is your position on how Hanover should best utilize Sylvester School? It's like 3 questions in one there. And as I said, this is for the selectmen. So Mrs. O'Connor, Vanessa, would you like to begin? Vanessa O'Connor.
Sure. Sorry. I'm having a little trouble with my internet. I missed the last part of the question, just after about whether this will interfere with projects other than the fire station. Could you just repeat that portion?
Yes. What is your position on how Hanover should best utilize Sylvester School? So
She's frozen again.
is it a good time to move the school administration from Salmon to Sylvester? Are there any issues with the Salmon building? And does this put the town in position to choose projects like a new fire station versus the schools? And how should Sylvester School be utilized?
Looks like our feed froze again.
All right, we'll move on then. Viola, back to you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. My understanding is that the Salmon School has a new furnace and that work has been done there to accommodate all of the various needs for administration. That said, however, again, it isn't up to selectmen to make decisions. It's up to us to develop policy and to look to other boards and cooperate with them. I think that the school committee probably has done a lot of research regarding Sylvester and Salmon, and that they best know how to present to town meeting regarding any provisions that they have for changing over their physical locations. It's very important going forward that we not expend money that we don't need to expend. If there's a way that the school committee can see to staying at Salmon so that we don't spend that money, then that's what I would probably support, and support in efforts for state funding for the school committee. So I would refer that question to the school committee where it belongs. I think I'm reiterating, the Board of Selectmen is not the school committee, it's not the planning board, it's not the conservation committee, but we support all of those committees, and we support looking for money from the state and from other funding sources so that they can do their jobs well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Loco?
Yes. Well, I'd just like to go back and answer the last question. I didn't get a chance to answer that about the town planner. You know, unfortunately, the town planner resigned, and previous to that, we lost our director of community development and municipal inspections, Justin DeBruin. He had to go back to Oklahoma. We had a really good staff there that was, you know, reviewing plans and coming up with a good vision for the development of the town. I was working with Justin on our rail trail proposal and put together the grant paperwork to apply for grant money to build out our rail trail and connect to the Rockland line. When Justin left, the work got shifted to Michelle. She tried to pick up the ball and run with it, but you know, now she's gone. The rail trail is not the only important thing for town. You know, now we're getting into this question about, you know, the Salmon property and the old Sylvester High School building, and it's a really important question, and it is something that the Board of Selectmen is going to have to weigh in on. You know, without a community development, functioning community development department, I mean, we have Ann, which she's amazing, but she's also only working in that department, you know, half of her time, and she can only do so much. So we are going to have to rely on the planning board and other boards, and especially the Board of Selectmen, to make the right decision there. Because now the Board of Selectmen, based on Article 36 of last year's town meeting, has the task of deciding what to do with the Sylvester building. And, you know, and serving in the master plan implementation committee and the community preservation committee as conservation's representative on those committees, we've talked about this, and we're really interested in these projects. This highly impact our community. The Salmon property is perfectly positioned for economic development, right at the edge of our historic village. The master plan calls for housing to be developed to support the businesses in our historic village and Columbia Road. We had a lot of vacancy signs, you know, and space for lease before COVID-19 on Columbia Road. And I can imagine that area is still going to need help after this is over. So I think if we're going to promote economic development in our commercial district, that property is the perfect spot to do it. And I have 2 young kids that attend center school. That expansion there and the development of that area in the core of our downtown has created a beautiful educational and municipal, like a civic campus there. It's a campus setting, and it's our central and historic town center. You look at those two buildings. Sylvester School was built in the Roaring 20s. The Salmon School was built in the Great Depression. The Sylvester School was built, the architect was the same architect as the library. It was built to match the library. The great families of Hanover contributed to the building of that civic complex and have created what we've all come to love there. I know people get confused about what we have in our town center, because our town center is not a traditional New England village, but what it is it's the remnants of farm country that was on the outskirts of Scituate. Hanover and Norwell were originally part of Scituate, so I don't think we should defile that special area in our town center with the horse farm and beautiful rolling hills in the cemetery and open space and grand architecture. That sure, Norman Rockwell couldn't have painted a better civic building, a beautiful public building that we have in the old Sylvester High School, the first high school that was ever built in town. It's the perfect spot for the school administration building with space to spare for additional programming for the hundreds of family and community engagement families. Educational opportunities are there. And one other thing that is being developed and is a plan is an opportunity to have a special education wing in the 1960s edition. And what that'll do is that's going to save us money on outplacements that we're spending a lot of money, and we're putting $400,000 away for special education services this year into a reserve fund. And if we can control those costs, we'll save the school department a lot of money, and we'll also have the opportunity for students who need services from other surrounding communities to come here and pay money to get the services in town.
Thank you. Thank you. Vanessa O'Connor, are you on now?
I am. Sorry about that, Marion. I've had issues since the last power outage. So I think that, I personally believe that the town mandate, the mandate from the last town meeting was that the RFP be reissued with regard to the Sylvester School, and that that go out for bids, and that property ultimately be developed. I think that it serves several interests of the town, and I think it will help maintain the character of the town while allowing residents in town that are looking to maybe downsize while remaining in town to stay. So and I think it does make sense to move the administration from the from the Sylvester School to the Salmon School, but I don't think it makes sense to do that until we've reached a decision with regard to what direction the Sylvester School property would ultimately take. I think it's really important to note that there's a number of seniors in our town who really want to stay in town, but may not have the need for a 4-bedroom house or 5-bedroom house, or be able to afford it now that their kids are gone and starting their own families. And I think it's really important that we work to make sure that those residents are able to find affordable housing alternatives in town. And I think an excellent way of doing that benefits all parties is for the Sylvester School to be renovated and to ultimately be turned into senior housing. And I think it's also important to note that the Traggart proposal that was considered last year at town meeting also included a space for the town. And the town will still own that property because it would only be a lease of the building, not of the actual property itself. So the worry of losing land because you can't get land back, I think, is ameliorated by that. So yes, I am in favor of the Sylvester School renovation and ultimately the turning of that property into residential housing. And I believe that it benefits many people in the town. It benefits seniors that are able to stay in town while finding smaller and more affordable housing, which I think there's a shortage of in town if you look at the most recent master plan. And I think it benefits young families like mine that really want to move to a town like Hanover for its small town feel and for the community here, but aren't able to because we're still waiting for housing to open up, and there's really a shortage of single family housing in the South Shore. So yes, I'm in favor of the Sylvester School renovation proposal, and I do believe that the school administration should stay in Salmon School, and what's been moved to the Sylvester School or is currently in the Sylvester
Time. Thank you. Mel C Django.
Hi, I believe now it's not the time to deal with Sylvester School. I think we should this is something to revisit next year, I believe. so we have a better idea where things are going with the recovery from COVID-19. I believe that the town doesn't need to spend the money right now to renovate Sylvester School. The school department already has a good home. As a selectman, if I'm elected, I would work with fellow board members to come up with some viable option for the reuse of Sylvester School that aren't going to cost the town a lot of money. And that will have a negative impact on the town budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rhonda Nyman. Rhonda?
Yep, can
Oh,
you hear
she
me?
had a freeze too.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes,
Oh, am I there?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, I think we can all agree that we want to preserve the center of town, but I think we need to be cautious about how we use that building and space. And I would look forward to learning more about the issues surrounding the Salmon School, working with the school department and the school administration on the best uses for the Salmon School and for Sylvester. I think I would trust the school board and the administration, and I would defer to them for any questions and resources that they might want to use for that space. I don't think we should be, positioning each other to compete against each other on what we should do with the schools. But I would like to just mention, my takeaway from the Sylvester property is what I would like to say, and I've stood by it, is saying that we want to preserve the center of town and work with the departments in the town and see what's the best use of that property.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next question is for the school committee. Can you identify one or two areas of weakness in the Hanover school system and suggest how these areas can be strengthened while keeping within the school department budget? Ryan? Ryan Hall?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think that an area that we can focus on, we've done an incredible job as a district bringing programs like Read 2700, for example, to our district to focus on a need that we have, such as the reading in the district. I think one of the things that we can do as a district across the board to improve our review of those programs and our funding of those programs, making informed decisions about that, is to do more comprehensive, consistent data collection that we can use to make those informed decisions and review those programs on a consistent basis so that we're ensuring that they're being done across the board in a consistent manner in all classrooms, and that they're being presented to students in classrooms in an efficient way, that we are going to see the benefit in the end. That's obviously the hope of any program that we bring to the district, and a program that the administration would choose to do in the district. And we would want to make sure that we're, again, collecting that data, using that data to make informed decisions, to review these programs, to ensure that they're being done with fidelity in the classroom.
Thank you. Thank you. Peter Moralia? Peter? Well, how about Ruth? Are you ready to answer? Ready to respond?
Sure.
Thank you.
Ryan, the question of examining data is always critical, as you know. But I feel right now an issue that's been looked at and is being addressed and is critical is effective communication with parents in our community in order for them to gain a deeper understanding of why schools make the decisions that they do. And with this tragedy of the virus, people often say, out of things like this come also opportunities. Well, one of the opportunities that's presented us is parents are beginning to realize the enormous task involved in being a teacher. And as a result of this new way of learning for some students, whether you want to call it viral learning or distance learning or online learning, is there's a lot more communication going on now that's never taken place before, because parents are beginning to see how critical it is that their students have access to the work that they need. And I think it's important that we continue to do that, to continue to communicate to parents why we felt it was important to bring about a reading program, why we felt it was important to bring about a new math program, why the guidance department at the high school has instituted a new program this year to invite parents whose children are going to be applying to colleges to understand the whole process of applying to college, and did a great job this year of communicating that with parents. And the feedback that the school got was, wow, this was great. Now we understand how complicated it is, the process of enrolling your child to college, and what we need to know. So in a nutshell, there's a lot of things in schools that unfortunately we, the schools, don't do a good job in communicating out to parents. And now I'm beginning to see more and more of that happening. So it's a very positive outcome of some difficult situations, that this communication has really reached a point. It's almost remarkable when you have parents picking up the phone and saying to the superintendent, I just think this is great what you're doing to help us get through this awful ordeal.
Thank you. Peter Moralia, are you on? Peter?
You're still on mute.
I don't even see his picture. Peter? All right, well, we can come back to him when he comes
I can
back.
see him. He just doesn't seem to be, he seems to be muted.
He's definitely there. He's muted.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to come back to him. The next question is for the selectmen. The transfer station needs to permanently close areas within the station. We also need to be sure we have a gate person turning away non-sticker vehicles. How are you prepared to support these issues? Would you be willing to close the transfer station if costs don't turn around? And why don't we start with, who haven't we started with? Why don't we start with Viola?
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This came up some time ago when there was a suggestion that we bring in a private vendor to run the transfer station. That would also have brought in 150 trucks a day going over Hanover roadways, destroying pavement. And it would have meant more traffic for our kids who are out in the streets, more traffic for us, odor, and all other kinds of things that I personally find repugnant. And I think other people do too. We have a transfer station that is run by the Board of Public Works indirectly through the Public Works Department. Many times my husband has said to me, gee, I've been down there and I've seen people coming in who don't have stickers. One of the first things we need to do probably is, as people, is to note when we see someone coming in who doesn't have a sticker. And that costs us money. We need to have someone at that gate. That is probably one of the biggest savings that we could give the town in hard times. Again, the Board of Public Works is looking at this. I think it's an important town meeting vote. Once more, and I sound like a broken record, but once more, these votes come before town meeting, and it's up to townspeople to decide whether or not they want a closed transfer station and a private vendor running it for profit. And remember, that's for profit. Or do we want to tighten up our belts and run it on days when people most would be able to use it? If we have to cut time, we cut time. But we do the things that our particular year's financial status allows us to do, and we can't do more than that. I thank you for and I want to say that I think we have a good Board of Public Works. It's just that you can't be everywhere all the time, and that's why they need a gate person. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Marianne, I'm back. Sorry, I lost my audio.
Peter, did you hear the question or shall I repeat it?
I heard it. Thank you for allowing me to talk. Yeah, so I spent a great deal of time talking to a lot of people including members of the school committee, school officials, and residents about what they think the issues are. And I agree with them. I think some of the major ones are academic excellence, and that's a long-term. That's not my dog. And I think that's tied in with our academic ranking, which is also an issue. And also, as Ruth mentioned, the free flow of communication, not just between the school committee and residents, but from the school and residents. I think all those are intertwined. And if you look at it, as an engineer, everything that we do, if somebody says a challenge or a problem, therefore there's also an opportunity. So I also agree with Ruth. There are some ways here that we can look at these problems and see them as opportunities. And I think COVID's a great example where I am learning firsthand exactly what the kids are learning, the way they're learning it, and where they are. And it forces a conversation between myself and others and others who are teaching them and the school committee. So I think there is a good experience there to be had. And I think the question is, as we're moving forward, COVID's not going away anytime soon. And how can we continue to leverage this and use it more in the fall as we move forward? So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. What am I looking for? Ruth. No, Ruth already answered this. Oh, we're done. Thank you. Next question is for the planning board. Giuseppe. The master plan is a document.
Hey, Marianne,
Marianne.
I might note, I think you only got through one or two selectmen with that previous question.
Oh,
Let Peter talk.
I'm going ahead of myself. Thank you for correcting me. I appreciate that. I believe Vanessa was next.
So I am not in favor of privatizing the transfer station. That said, I do think that there are a lot of steps that we can take to reduce the money that the transfer station is leaking. First and foremost, we've got to enforce stickers. Residents in town have months to obtain a sticker. I think the process begins at the beginning of September, October. And then Victor and the DPW make the option to get a sticker available to residents many weekends at the transfer station for those that aren't able to go to Pond Street during the week. So I think that it's very important that we start to enforce stickers. And one mechanism I can think of to enforce that really would avoid there being a financial impact to the town is to use the senior work-off program. There are seniors that are applying for working with volunteer work with the town that will result in them getting a tax credit on their property taxes. And I think we could use those seniors at the transfer station to help enforce stickers. The problem with that is, or the next step that needs to happen there is that there has to be teeth to enforcement. There has to be backing for Victor, the DPW, and the person checking stickers to have the police department come if necessary if people are not following the rules, and to enforce that with fines, with whatever is necessary. And right now that doesn't exist. I know that the selectmen are having an ongoing discussion with the DPW and with the police to try and come to some sort of resolution there. But I think that it's very important that we start checking stickers. I think that's the absolute base, because we can't have people from other towns coming and disposing of their waste in Hanover. And I think that from my understanding from talking with residents, there's a fear or a worry that other towns are aware of that, of Hanover's loose restrictions when it comes to disposing of waste at the transfer station, and other towns are taking advantage of that. Additionally, I think that we need to stop the disposal of construction waste at the transfer station. The issue that we're facing with both construction waste and recycling is that there's the transportation costs to move that recycled waste and those construction materials is very, very high, and it's grown exponentially recently. And I think that to the extent we can reduce that, we can stop the leaking of funds from the transfer station. So I think that we can get rid of disposal of construction materials at the transfer station. There are other outlets on the South Shore that we can direct residents to where they can go and dispose of those materials, or there are options from several companies locally to have a small dumpster. It doesn't have to be one of those giant 30, 40-foot dumpsters come to their house and help when there's a small project like a bathroom renovation or something like that. I also think that we really need to promote recycling in town. Recycling is the law in Hanover. Everyone has to do it. That said, I don't think everyone does. And it's a lot less cost efficient to dispose of mixed use refuse than it is to dispose of recycled materials. So we really need to get out there and educate and encourage people to follow those rules, because the costs increase for everyone when they don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Lucca? Stephen?
Yes, I'm here. No, I don't think that we should consider closing the transfer station. I don't think we should consider privatizing the transfer station. It's one of the only services that we get here in town as taxpayers that everybody uses. It's a public utility. We need to get rid of our trash. We don't have trash pickup. But I do think we need to tighten up operations over there. Mr. Diniak has been trying to work with the Board of Selectmen to come up with a good policy that has some teeth to enforce what I would call trespassing on public property. If somebody is coming onto our transfer station to dispose of trash and they don't have a Hanover sticker, that's trespassing. And it's unfortunate that, Mr. Diniak and the DPW has felt powerless to handle that. And I think that type of enforcement has to be stepped up. He does need infrastructure there to tighten up the gate, and it should be done. It's going to save us money. It might cost a little to do, but it's going to save us a lot of money in the long run. And if not having construction waste disposed there saves us a lot of money, I think the people of Hanover can find another place to get rid of that. Regular trash is fine. Unfortunately, we're not making a lot of money on recycling anymore. It's a good thing to do, but maybe that has to be evaluated.
Thank you.
I think that we shouldn't change things too much, but we do need to tighten things up over there.
Great, thank you. Rhonda Nyman?
Hi, can you hear me, Mary Ann? I'm sorry.
No, that's fine, Rhonda. Yes, I can hear you.
So I do not support closing the transfer station, actually, and I do not support privatizing the transfer station. The transfer station really operates very smoothly. I'm proud of the recycling that we do there. They do a great job with the work that they do over there. And I would support our DPW. We need to enforce, what we need to do is enforce people that have stickers coming into this transfer station. I would look forward to working with the DPW and other departments to find the best solutions, really, in what we can do in these economic uncertainties that we have faced before us. And we also need to just ensure it's only Hanover residents using our stickers. I think that's an issue that we've heard from people, that there's non-residents coming into the transfer station. But keeping the transfer station in the ownership of the town is important. And I really look forward to working with the DPW. They know best on how it's to run, and it runs smoothly and effectively. And I would just encourage people, to adhere by the rules and not give out additional stickers to people that don't live in town. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mel C Django.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Hi, I would not consider closing or privatizing the transfer station. I think working with the DPW and department heads of enforcing the stickers, also having a gatekeeper, also make that, I think would be the best use instead of privatizing. I think the cost of privatizing, it'll make it more, a tax rates could go up, the cost of it could go up. So I definitely think we should keep it open and then have a transfer gate, have a gatekeeper, and enforce the sticker.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, question for the planning board. The master plan is a document that the planning board has oversight. Is the planning board reviewing the plan, I would think that means the master plan, regularly to be sure that when plans come through the planning department, the request is aligning with the master plan? Giuseppe?
Sure. Thank you, Mary Ann. So when thinking about the master plan, I think of it as the town's blueprint on what we collectively wish to achieve and what we want for the future of the town. The master plan is always considered from the perspective of the planning board and always touched upon to the capacity in which we can control. We assisted in its formation, as mentioned in the question, but what's really important to achieve the master plan is resident participation for all projects. It's just so key and so vital. Even if the projects are not impacting your immediate area or neighborhood, our meetings are public and welcome. We welcome you to come. But to formally answer the question, an example of us enacting, or I should say utilizing the master plan, excuse me, in action with the town planner was with Hanover Crossing, which called for an alternative to non-traditional family housing, single family homes. And that was called out in the master plan, and that was achieved with the Hanover Crossing project. Having said that, I would also say that this is where a town planner does come in handy, in identifying these projects as well.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, school committee. Given the shortage of skilled professionals in the trades and the limited number of spots in the vocational technical high schools, should HHS offer more opportunities in these fields? And why don't we start with Ruth?
No, we shouldn't. The reality of it is Hanover High School is a college prep high school. Our courses are so designed to prepare students to continue their education after they leave school, whether it be a 2-year school or a 4-year school. That's really what we're about. Though we do have students who have interests in other areas, so they do apply to South Shore Votech, or they do go to the Aggie if they choose. But maybe they could get a skilled training at some place like Massasoit, particularly the Blue Hills extension, that allows students to learn that kind of a trade. It's just that today, when we look at a school and a community like Hanover, we can't be all things to all men. And by that, I mean that we really focus on kids' needs and what many people in Hanover, because of the educational background of our community, they want their children to have the experiences and the opportunities to continue their education. So all of our programs, our SAT preps, our AP courses, our new literacy program, they're all searching to enhance academic achievement. Times have changed. When I first started as a principal, they wanted to build a home economics wing in the building. And I said, this is not the place for kids to learn to cook and sew. Those days are gone, they're over. We don't have to teach people how to change tires and fix automobiles anymore. If they want to learn that particular trade, then they would go perhaps to a school that does that. But the public high schools like Hanover, Norwell, Duxbury, all in this area, they really are nothing more than a college prep high school. And we're proud of that fact, and we do a good job of it. As we see, kids have lots of opportunities. They work hard, they can get into almost any school in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter Morelia.
Yes, I think that our primary focus is college preparation. And I think if we went away from that or took another focus, we would pull away from that. So I think, I think there's so many options for students these days. I mean, so many. And if you start with a college diploma, you can, in a high quality education system like Hanover, you can do just about anything you I mean, I have many friends who went into the trades after they finished college. I mean, I think there's plenty of options out there once you leave high school to go to a trade school or go to a college or community college that is focused on trades. I think the college diploma in a college preparatory school like Hanover is the minimum, and what students can do after that is really up to them. And they're like I said, there's lots of options out there.
Thank you. Ryan Hall.
Yes, hi. I agree. I think, Ruth, you said it well. We can't be everything to everyone. Hanover, I believe, needs to focus on what we do and what we need to do well, which is college preparatory. And there are a lot of need for trades. There's a lot of students that are interested in trades. I think we need to do our due diligence to support those students, help them find those schools that they would like to seek out if those are opportunities that they would like to have. Find those partnerships with other programs, Ruth, like you mentioned. I think that's great. And make sure that we're supporting students and families that do seek out a trade education. I have experience working in a both academic and vocational high school, and the undertaking of what it would take to implement the curriculum and the due diligence to run it well. We do not have the capacity for it here in Hanover, and we need to focus on being a college prep high school that we are and do it well. And I think it would take away from what we're working towards and what Hanover is doing to help our students.
Great, thank you. Thank you. We had 35 questions submitted for residents, and I've tried to cut it down because this forum usually lasts about 2 hours. So I think I will ask one more question of each group. And this one will be for the selectmen. With the redevelopment of the mall coming, including shops, restaurants, 14 liquor licenses, and apartments, what are your ideas to prepare for traffic mitigation in the Walnut Hill neighborhood, specifically in piloting a gate at the Route 53 and Woodlawn intersection? And Mr. Lucca, we'll start with you, please.
I think what's going on at the mall is going to be really good for our town. Route 53 is our commercial district, and increasing activity there and increasing tax revenues for our town will reduce the burden on the residential taxpayer. Traffic's going to be an issue at the mall. It's always been an issue on 53. We've handled it well. We are at the interchange on Route 3, which is great. It brings people to Hanover to shop and to dine and for entertainment. There's a neighborhood that's right there. It's close. You mentioned Walnut Hill. It's a great neighborhood. It's similar to many other neighborhoods that go across the rural country part of Hanover where most of us live. And the residents of that neighborhood are concerned about Woodland being a cut through. It is a cut through. You know, people cut through from the mall to get to 123 and avoid Assinippie. You know, if we talk about our commercial strip and our master plan and, you know, our historic villages and how it all fits together, Assinippie is one of our historic villages, just like the Four Corners villages down on Columbia Road. And I think we do a service to the Walnut Hill neighborhood by shutting off Woodland Drive there across the street from the mall. And we'd also help out economic development by driving traffic through an intersection where 123 and 53 come together that is being redeveloped too. And, you know, bring more people through there and help the businesses that are popping up in that intersection that's being redeveloped. So I think, you know, traffic planning, it can also be used as a part of economic development. You know, why should people cut through the Walnut Hill neighborhood when they could go up to that, you know, nice set of lights, maybe stop and do some shopping at Merchants Row or some of the new shops that are going to pop up there, and then take their turn onto 123. And I think that's a fair solution.
Thank you. Mel C Django. Mel C Django? All right, we'll wait for Mel C to return. Viola?
Thank you, Mary Ann. Again, I agree that it has been quite a problem for people living on Dillingham Way and for people in that whole area to have the traffic speeding through to get to the mall from Abington, from other parts of Hanover, from all other areas. So that it makes common sense that we need to address that. Whether a gate or not is the answer would be a question for public safety officials. And I think a lot more planning has to be done. The planning board, the police department, the Board of Public Works all need to be part of that decision, as well as, most importantly, the residents, and to get a consensus from those residents as to whether or not a majority of those people feel that they want that gate there. There's no question that as we develop in Hanover and we develop commercially, we have impacts. And on the Board of Selectmen, one of our duties is to address policy and to look at all of these things in cooperation with other boards and spiriting along the growth of the town. I thank you for listening to what I had to say tonight, and I thank you for looking at all these questions, but I thank you even more if you show up at town meeting and vote on these issues when you can, because they impact you as residents and voters and taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mel C?
Hi. Hello?
No.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't know something. I would say that there have been probably been a solution to whatever problems may arise with traffic in the Walnut Hill neighborhood. The gate or other solution may be best left to the townspeople to vote at a town meeting or special town meeting after all of the options are identified by the Board of Selectmen.
All right, thank you. Rhonda Nyman?
Okay, I think I finally figured this thing out, sorry. So, you know, I've heard that there are many concerns about the traffic that will come because of the development of the mall. I look forward to hearing from the residents that will be directly impacted and how we can best accommodate our new businesses and the residents there. You know, I've had the working experience across departments on traffic mitigation, and I can understand how to advocate for funding from the state if necessary to ease these traffic concerns. But I think what we have to understand is that the mixed-use development will be an asset for the town, but we also have to be aware that we need to ensure that our residents are safe. I know at this time here, I know that there's been conversations and plans with the stakeholders that live in that area. And I don't know if at this time we could actually do a traffic study. You know, we don't have schools are not in place now. Actually, the traffic hasn't even come to 53 towards the mall yet. So I think, you know, we're just gonna have to work with department heads and figure out what the best use is, what we can do to help mitigate the whole situation.
Thank you. Vanessa O'Connor? Vanessa?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I do understand that the traffic going through the Walnut Hill neighborhood has been an ongoing concern of residents of that neighborhood as the Hanover Crossing project has been discussed and has evolved over the years. And I also do understand that there have been ongoing discussions between representatives of that neighborhood and the Board of Selectmen. And I've been present at several Board of Selectmen meetings going back to the end of last year where the effects in the Walnut Hill neighborhood have been discussed. That said, I think that what ultimately happens with regard to whether there is a gate is one, not something that can be determined by the Board of Selectmen. I think town meeting would have to vote whether to appropriate those funds that would be required for a gate. That said, before we reach that step, I really do believe that there has to be a study as to what impact that the gate would have on the ability of our first responders to get to the streets that branch off of that neighborhood, the impact school system as they try and get kids to and from school, and a number of other things. So, and I think that we do want to be considerate of the concerns of the members of that neighborhood, but we also have to balance that with the safety and well-being of residents of our town and with encouraging development along the 53 corridor. So I'm absolutely I'm absolutely open to working with residents of the Walnut Hill neighborhood and hearing their concerns, because I believe that they're valid and I believe that they should be heard. But I'm not really prepared to make a decision as to whether I firmly believe one way or another whether there should be a gate until I've had an opportunity to discuss directly with them and to hear what our first responders and the other members of our community think about that proposal, because it does impact people outside of that neighborhood as well. And I'm happy to continue those discussions and to be a part of them going forward.
Thank you. For the planning board, the cluster zoning bylaw, 3 years waiting, where do you stand? Giuseppe?
Cluster zoning bylaw, where do I stand? So that's a great question. And just to kind of give a little background of what the cluster zoning bylaw is it's basically a committee that was formed to do a study on and make a recommendation for building smaller homes on larger parcels of land to essentially create affordability and more open space. So the planning board had, I think, 2 presentations from the cluster zoning committee in the past year or so. And they shared kind of what their findings and renderings were and what they had come up with. And the planning board had questions of the viability of whether it would be financially viable for a developer to accomplish this, and if it was actually creating what is affordable housing alternatives. So I would say that there isn't enough information to form an opinion on the cluster zoning bylaw yet, and I would say that it would need to be referred to the cluster zoning committee to see where it stands.
Thank you. Thank you. And a school committee. I think this is a cute question. Could the virtual classroom be used for snow days? I like that question. Ryan?
No more snow days. Wow.
I know. Ryan? All right. Ruth?
Well, it's the use of virtual classroom and instruction is definitely going to change instruction when we get back to, quote, normal education. There is nothing like the experience of being in a classroom with a role model, with that adult who encourages other members of the classroom to add to that experience. When you're taking a course online or a virtual classroom, even if you're doing like a program we're doing tonight on Zoom, there's no way that you can recreate what takes place in a classroom. You just can't create that interaction that takes place. Now, to answer your question about snow days, it comes down to the point, I think, of how you're going to measure achievement, meaning that it has to be fair and equitable, which it is in a classroom. And one of the drawbacks of this whole experience about virtual classrooms is the question has to be asked, are all students having the same opportunities with this experience? And they're not. One thing, look at the technology difference even tonight. People are getting temporarily shut down. When that happens in a classroom, it's really serious. Some kids don't have internet connection. Some kids don't even have a laptop. That means that not all students are on equal grounds. So if you want to take a snow day and try to create a classroom, it's not going to be the same. And we're realizing that now, and we're doing everything that we can to make sure that all students get this equal experience. So let the kids enjoy the day off. And besides that, Mr. Farron loves to go through that whole experience of deciding.
Thank you. Peter Moralia.
So, okay, so tongue in cheek, I have on occasion on snow days up at Lowell still held class because I wanted to keep on schedule. That being said, yeah, I mean, I think there's a logistical question here which is rather complicated, which is, can the school actually react to that and just all of a sudden throw what they had planned for the next day online? I think that's kind of a big challenge. But I think maybe a better question is, how does this new online learning that we're rolling out right now, because we have to, how can it be used as an opportunity in the future? How can it transform or even enhance learning in different ways in the future? I'll just give you a couple examples. One is, if a student misses class for whatever reason, or misses a week class, they can see it again. They can catch up. It's all recorded. And there are other ways, it's called the flipped classroom, where you can actually enhance the experience, where you throw the boring lectures online and the students end up watching them and fast forward, and you do the problem solving in class, the real intense stuff where they really need somebody to be there with them to work it. So anyway, those are some things to think about in the future as we try to go back to normal. But I think there's some opportunities there for online learning. It may not be for snow days, though.
Thank you. Well, candidates, thank you all for your thoughtful responses. And it is now time for our closing remarks. So, Doug, you've been very quiet this evening. So why don't we start with you, closing remarks.
It's not often that people say that as a sentence. Doug, you've been very quiet.
Where's Kathy?
I've really enjoyed listening to this. It's not perfect. There were some technology challenges, certainly. But, I was keeping track of it. We got to almost 100 people watching. And I think over time we would get more year on year if people thought and could see the access they get and get to hear this type of discussion. I love it live, but getting 100 people to candidates night can be a challenge. And maybe we do get more people watching. Maybe you do both next year when you can do it live and also show it this way. Maybe you get as many people as you could possibly get, because it's important. I'm thrilled there are 5 candidates for selectmen. That's a great thing because you've got a lot of choice and a lot of very qualified people. So I do appreciate it. Every one of those people who votes for me, even though I'm unopposed, because it is an endorsement that I'm trying hard to continue to run town meeting and fill volunteer slots as best I can. And I encourage everybody to show up on the 29th of June and participate in their town government, because as many of the candidates have, basically all the candidates have acknowledged, direct participation in your government is what we all do and what every citizen in town needs to do, because we get a better solution the more people that are talking about it and the more people that are voting on it. So thanks everybody for running. I really appreciate it. I'm glad that I have great choices. And that'll do it for me.
Thank you, Doug. Giuseppe Fernaro.
Thank you, Marianne. And I share Doug's sentiment. I love the fact that we have such participation. I just think it's great when people come out and really can be part of the change and the impacts in town. It's really great, even in this very weird environment that we're in right now. So my main focus, obviously, as I believe all the members on the planning board, is bylaws and that they're adhered to for the well-being of the town. I am committed to the management of development in a way that maintains the character of our town. And I'm hoping to achieve this, to continue, I should say, to achieve this by utilizing our master plan and staying true to our bylaws. So I thank you all for listening to me respond to things by myself up here, but thank you so much and hope to see you all soon, because I'm an extrovert and I hate being inside.
Thank you. Ruth Lynch.
During the past 7 years when I've served on school committee, I've met some wonderful people, and that in itself has been a great experience, because when I was an administrator and working, I didn't have that opportunity to get involved and give back to my community. And having done that during these past 7 years and having met so many wonderful people and watched the operation of the committee, I think one of the reasons why we have been successful and we have seen growth in our schools, we've instituted some innovative programs, and we accomplished major changes in the elementary school with the restructuring. All of this happened because we worked together as a team. We respected each other. We didn't always agree, but we carefully listened to each other. And reflecting on that, the reason why it worked in our committee was because people that are on the committee don't come with agendas. They don't come with a personal need that they have. And I say this to the members of the Hanover community, that we want to be very careful when we select people to be on school committee, that they're not serving the needs of a particular group. It would be sad if somebody ran for school committee because they didn't like the way the athletic program was run, or they didn't like the way the band program was run. That's not what we're about. We're about to serve the needs of all students. So community members, when you think about who you're going to vote for, I would ask people, what do you see as your main job? What do you see as your main function? And just be careful that we don't get people on these committees who are serving their own particular needs, but rather they have a vision for the entire community. Thank you for allowing me to serve you these past 7 years. I would really like to serve for 3 more years. I think we've accomplished a lot, and I would like to finish the project. Thank you very much for tonight. It's been great.
Thank you. Peter Moralia. Peter?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we moved here 5 years ago. The top of the list was the schools. And it continues to be really important to me. I think that we really need to think about how do we stay competitive and how do we stay on this upward trajectory. There's been a lot of great progress being made over a number of years by the school committee and by school leadership. It's been a great team and great leadership. And I think we need to continue that. Why do we need to stay on this upward trajectory I'm talking about? Because life is about options, right? And our children deserve the very best, and they need to work hard. We need to push them to work hard. But in the end, they need options and they need opportunities. And we need to have this infrastructure and this program to give them those options. There are a number of issues that that have come across in my conversations with people and leadership, and I'll just list them here. I've mentioned them before: academic excellence, our competitive ranking. It's not the most important thing, but it's important for trying to get into, getting kids into great schools. Special needs, and you've heard this from a number of people tonight: free flow of information between the committee and the residents. So I'm a problem solver. I'm an engineer. I like to take a time to dig into things and come up with solutions. The easiest thing to do is to throw solutions at problems that either don't exist or they're the wrong problems to solve. So I think what I bring to the table is really trying to get to the core of the problems and trying to find solutions to them. Lastly, I just want to say, I want to be your voice. I want to be available to you. If you have issues that you see in the school system, I want you to be able to feel comfortable reaching out to me. And the last thing I'll say is get out there and vote. Just vote. Get to the polls. If you don't feel comfortable, get a mail-in voter. You can do it. It's really easy. And check off on the ballot who you think is the best candidates. I think this is a great night. I really appreciate you allowing me to participate. And I wish all the best for all the candidates.
Thank you. Thank you. Ryan Hall.
Hi. Real quickly, I didn't get a chance to answer the snow day question. So
Oh, thank you.
It's okay. Real quickly, Ruth, I 100% agree with you. There is nothing that replaces the classroom. As a teacher, for as long as I've been a teacher, there is nothing better and more effective in meaningful teaching than the connection between a teacher and a student in that classroom, and we can't replace that behind a computer screen. We can do it quickly. We can do it in really innovative ways. We can videotape and create flipped classroom environments, and those are done, and they're done well. They're done often. But to what I can speak from experience right now, teaching from home. This is not something that replaces what I experience in the classroom as a teacher every day. I hope it doesn't continue much longer for the benefit of the students, because I'm missing that connection, and I know that, and they know that. And I think we need to let a snow day be a snow day, in all honesty. I think we can pick up the curriculum when we get back and we shovel out our driveways. So that's my answer to that question. In closing, I just wanted to kind of share that I bring a broad and balanced viewpoint to this position. I'm a taxpayer, a homeowner, a teacher, a full-time working parent of 3 in the Hanover schools. And I believe that through open and ongoing communication, that there's a strong partnership that can be created with the community, the families, the administration, the educators, and the committee. And we can build this strong, responsive district for all students in Hanover. This open communication is key. In these uncertain, difficult times that we're going through right now, we all want to help our community, and that's why I'm here. Over the last 10 years in Hanover, I have met many children and families and teachers that have shared their own stories with me, and these stories, as well as my own, continue to fuel my desire to run for this office. I believe all my years and experience with education and my demonstrated dedication to ensuring all students reach their full potential will benefit the school committee and Hanover community. I truly want to make this town the best for my kids, your kids, and our community as a whole, all of us. I know that I'm going to have to work hard for your vote. I totally understand that. And I hope that tonight I gave everyone a better understanding of who I am and why I deserve to be elected to this committee. And I hope you get out there and vote.
Thank you. Thank you. Stephen Lucca. Stephen?
Yes. Yeah, I'd like to thank the Women's Club for putting this together. I'd like to thank you, Marianne, for moderating. This was a good event. And we may have had 100 people watching at one point, but this footage is going to be available in perpetuity on the Hanover Community Access Television website. For people out there who, when you see this, you're watching, but spread the word. It's a great service that the town offers. It's our very own YouTube. You can go in and watch previous meetings to learn how things happen in town. I've really enjoyed volunteering in town. I've met a lot of great people. We've been got to get in, be involved in some really interesting projects and proposals, and it's fun. It's engaging, and I hope I have the opportunity to serve the town on the Board of Selectmen. I'm really happy with the work that I do on Conservation, Community Preservation Committee, and the Master Plan Committee. But there's a lot of work to do, and we have some really important votes coming up in this next 3-year term. And I know that there are issues that are going to be voted on by this board, by the Board of Selectmen, that we care about, people care about deeply. And I'd like to represent those concerns on the Board of Selectmen, and I ask for your vote. Get the form, fill in the form, get your mail-in ballot. We don't know if we're going to get the opportunity to vote on election day. Hopefully we do. And this whole virus restriction, all the virus restrictions ease by then. But if you can do your mail-in ballot, I encourage that and ask for your vote. Thank you very much, and stay healthy, Hanover.
Thank you. Vanessa O'Connor.
experience running for election in Hanover, and it's been really interesting. It's been a great experience, and I'm not going anywhere, regardless of the outcome of this election. I've had a wonderful time talking to department heads that I've had the opportunity to sit down with, who've made time for me in the midst of the growing COVID-19 epidemic. I've reviewed town meetings from years before I moved to town. I've reviewed annual reports. I've worked really hard, and as I guess to show how hard I've worked, I've also earned the endorsement of both of the outgoing selectmen from the Board of Selectmen. Both Emmanuel Doctor and Jocelyn Keegan are both supporting my candidacy, and I think it's because they've seen how hard I'm willing to work for this. It matters to me. I moved to this community because I care about this community. I moved to this community because I really think it's going to be a great place to raise my family, and I hope that you'll give me the opportunity to represent you. And I think that means more than representing you on one issue, even recognizing that the budget is going to be a really tough obstacle that we have to overcome for the next couple of years. I'm well informed on issues related to the fireworks site, related to water quality in town, related to the transfer station. And I truly think it's my obligation to represent all residents in town, from seniors to young families to children. I think it's really important that we come together as a community, especially in the coming years. I think that it's important that we're considerate of each other, and that we continue to be supportive of each other as we continue to battle the issues that we're currently facing. And I truly hope that we'll continue to work together, and that I will get to meet many of you in the coming months and years. I respectfully ask for your vote for a seat on the Board of Selectmen in Hanover, and I hope to get to meet more of you soon. And I hope that you've seen tonight, 5 months since I submitted my papers, that I will work hard for you, and I do truly represent this community, even though I may be the newest resident to town and one of the younger candidates. So please vote for me in June.
Thank you. Mel C Django. Mel C? All right, we'll wait for Mel C to come on. Rhonda Nyman. Rhonda?
Oh, hi. Hello. In closing, again, I would like to say thank you to the Hanover Women's Club Juniors and to Marianne Brugnoli for moderating tonight's virtual candidates night. I especially want to say thank you to all of the candidates for their participation in tonight's forum, and to everyone who tuned in to listen to us. The coronavirus has shown everyone the importance of effective government. Hanover needs continued leadership, not only to respond to this unprecedented global pandemic, but also to maintain our exceptional services for our everyday quality of life. On that note, I would like to give a special thank you to our current Board of Selectmen and all town employees who have been working hard under the most stressful of circumstances. Please know that we appreciate you meeting these unique challenges, especially our public safety personnel and our first responders. I have a record of public service and have proven that I can work with different viewpoints to get things done. On local committees, throughout my time in the legislature, and in my current job at the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department, I have always worked for what is best for the people, and will continue to do so as your selectman. I decided to run for selectman because I wanted to give back to the people who make Hanover so special. I've lived in this community for over 40 years, and I want to maintain the high standard that makes us proud to be from Hanover. I want to make sure we spend our revenues effectively, that we maintain our excellent public schools, support and recognize our veterans, and provide services for our seniors, and advocate for our first responders to ensure they have the resources they need to keep our town safe. I have the experience and drive to help the town recover from the unprecedented challenges of COVID-19, and will assist in Hanover emerging as even a stronger community, safe, vibrant, and prepared for the future. Over the past few months, our lives have changed drastically. We are experiencing new realities as we continue to fight this global pandemic, and things will look different for all of us as we emerge on the other side. Now more than ever, we need experienced leadership at the local level. I offer that experience, along with a 40-year devotion to this community, and look forward to the opportunity to serve as your next selectman. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mel C, are you on? Mel C? Viola Ryerson?
I also would like to Thank you, Marianne. I would also like to reiterate the thanks to Marianne and to the Women's Club Juniors and to the other candidates for being so gracious, and to all of our departments for hanging in there during what is considered by many a wartime crisis. I came to this town many years ago and got involved on the Growth Policy Committee, then worked my way up through to the Advisory Committee, where I vice chaired the Finance Committee for 5 years of my 6-year tenure. I then was voted in on the Board of Selectmen by you, the voters, and served 3 terms because I knew what I was doing, did it well, thank God, and enjoyed helping the rest of the community through many of the different decisions we had to make. That being said, it's with humility that I ask for your vote. My children were raised in this town. One of them works for the town. And we are very proud of being residents of Hanover and of all of our neighbors and the kids. Even today, I just can't get over how well our kids behave during this crisis compared to some other communities where we see kids running around in groups and doing things like that. Our police and fire departments have put themselves out, as have all of the other departments, and many of them on the front lines. I am the only candidate who has a health background. I understand COVID-19. I did a cornerstone paper on its predecessor back at UMass Boston several years ago and never thought we'd see this. With that said, I can help guide us through this in support of departments because I understand what their needs are from a health point of view. I'm an educator. I understand the school committee's positions and respect that. And a business owner. My husband and I ran a business that was authorized by Analog Devices many years ago. And I now have an estate sale business of my own, which of course during COVID-19 is not operating. I want to come back to the Board of Selectmen because I love this town. I want to see the nature of this town as we saw it when we first moved here, somewhat preserved. We've lost some of it. We don't need to lose all of it. I believe that we offer the best place to live in the South Shore, and that's what makes us so attractive to both residential and commercial growth, but that we have to temper that with our resources. And to that end, I have always taken part in town meetings when I even not serving on the board, and I would like to now come back and be able to help foster many of the different work ethics from the many different boards in town and encourage people to come in and vote and be part of government. I worked my way up. I'm a strong worker, well-educated, and I also have the background in both in finance, in health, in education, and in social sciences to spirit this town along in the next decade. I thank you very much for your consideration and hope that you will return me to the board so that I may bring my experience, my talents, my abilities, and my enthusiasm. Stay strong, Hanover. Don't let COVID-19 get us. Vote. Wouldn't it be something if another country could say, we didn't vote, we didn't do anything, Americans were lazy? We're not. We're tough. We're Hanover tough. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Viola. I just received a text that Mel C is having problems logging in. Are you back on yet, Mel C? No? Well,
I don't see him in the display.
okay, thank you, Doug. When he comes back on, I will certainly allow him to give us our closing statement, give his closing statement. In the meantime, this concludes Candidates Night. To those of you who submitted questions that were not asked, my sincerest apologies. Thank you all for attending this evening's forum, and again, special thanks to everyone who played a role in making Candidates Night possible. Remember to vote either by mail or at the high school on June 29th. Mel C, are you on yet? Anybody see him? Oh. Well, good night all.